Welcome back to the Jumplify Labs podcast, the show for founders and coaches who want growth without the guesswork. Here we mix data, AI, and real talk about systems that drive predictable growth. And today we're joined by Deepak Bhootra, a Sandler sales coach, an author who helps sales leaders standardize the way their teams sell. He blends sales with operations to lift win rates and performance across the board. Deepak, welcome to the show.
Jay, thank you for having me. And I love that intro. I think you just made me believe in myself more than I could, right? Thank you for that. I'm really excited to be here. Looking forward to this conversation.
The pleasure is all mine, brother. So let's start things off. You have operated as an enterprise seller. You've led in sales operations. What edge does that combination give you when you are coaching teams?
Ooh, that is the only edge I have, my friend Jay. When you're talking to a salesperson or you're being a sales coach, when you talk about your own experience in selling, you're now not showing sympathy, you're showing empathy. You've been in those boots. You've actually suffered the same pain that they have when a customer says no. And when I started my career and when I exited and moved into sales operations because I wanted to solve bigger problems, that gave me a competitive edge. And that edge was that when I was looking at CRM or CPQ systems, I looked at them from the lens of what the salesperson is going to experience. What that means is that you're now looking at processes, you're looking at tools, you're looking at deployments that resonate better with the salesperson. You know, when you sometimes look at a product and you use it and you look at back and you tell the wife, this tool gets me. It kind of knows how I operate and how I behave. And I think that's a huge benefit. CRM systems and stuff, right? At least 20, 10, 15 years ago, the way they came out, they were designed for senior management to get stuff done. They were never designed with you, the salesperson, in mind. So I think that's the same analogy I would use for myself. An ex-salesperson who understands how processes create drag for a salesperson, how to take the life out of a function, which I think is such a noble and such a fun game, right? In fact, if I could spell celebration, it would be SELL liberation. Get it? Celebration. That's the
Yeah,
joy
yeah.
I'd like to bring into the work I do. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely does. So you are training other organizations. When you step into an organization, what signals tell you that the sales system is working versus them just kind of trying to wing it?
Jay, just ask. You'll be surprised. If you ask the right way, you're going to have people actually tell you what's going on. There's a lot of bravado, right? In sales, particularly, no salesman is going to tell you that they're struggling when you ask them. Because the second he admits that he's struggling, it's a signal to the world that you can't trust me. I don't know what I'm doing, which is exactly antithesis to that persona that's been created. How do you tell that things aren't working is exactly when you see that bravado, when you see everyone talking up the events, when you see people talking internal language. I'll give you a classic example, Jim. You sit and you say to a salesperson, where exactly are you in this deal? And he says, I'm in sales stage 4. That to me is a massive indicator. He's speaking internal language. He's not speaking customer language. Now, your sales stage 4 could be that we are preparing a proposal. But the question I would rather ask is, has your customer asked you for a proposal? Has the customer acknowledged that the proposal will solve something for them? Are you clear what you're going to put in the proposal? And do you have any idea what the pricing should look like? Those are not questions that you're going to see in a sales stage 4 setup, right? Because sales stage 4 is nothing more than just a milestone in a CRM system. That's one of the biggest gifts for me is when a culture talks internal language when reviewing customer deals instead of speaking customers' language, which is what is their process. Now, a lot of people accuse me of, that's not how it should work, Deepak, because it's a dance of equals. It's a buyer-seller dance. Yes, but if a seller is going to expect the customer to toe the line with their process, then that is a weird seller. The probability that they're going to ask you, Mr. Seller, to toe their line is higher. Your job is to act as an equal, act as two adults in a conversation, and then make sure that both work in tangent or tango together. That's the language I'm looking for. The language of why my client needs to work with me. What problem am I going to solve for them? What difference am I going to make in their lives? Rather than saying I'm 92% of quota and I have 16 deals from which I'm going to close the balance 8%. That's all internal language. Those are dead giveaways. I also look at proportion of time being spent. Proportion of time being spent on CRM, internal mollycoddling, as I call it, is a dead giveaway. Something else is going on, right? I typically ask them questions about the customer. One question that I really, really like to ask Jay, which I think you will enjoy is, if you were to win this deal and if you were to do it, what would your customer feel like in 6 months? And if the salesperson struggles to answer that, I know he's not thinking deep enough. And to get that feeling, you need to evidence that he understands the customer's needs. You need to ask the right questions. And language is a dead giveaway. The way meetings are run,
Yeah, so that's interesting for me because your sales manager and the sales department, they're typically asking where are these deals at? What stage of the pipeline? So you're saying milestones or what stage, but how do you change that culture? Because for sales, it's all about driving revenue. So how do you actually implement that change and how do you get teams to think to be more customer centric?
Here's the answer. Change the way you are setting up your meetings, change the agenda and the structures. Instead of having pipeline reviews, you should actually be having success reviews, customer outcomes, customer focused conversations, subtle things. What problem are you solving? By when do you expect to solve this problem? Has your customer agreed that this is the problem that needs to be solved? Just see the change in questions there. You get the same answers, but the question changes the tonality of how those answers come back to you. When you tell someone, where are you in your quota? That is great, but the quota achievement is a outcome. It's not the input. So change the questions to the inputs. And I always tell people, what are inputs? When you talk about quotas and achievement, you're looking at what I call future lagging indicators. That's the best way to put it. One of the reasons why I never went into finance or accounting is because, Jay, I don't want to build a report that says last month we made $10,000. I want to build a report that says next month we're going to be working on $20,000 forward looking. So the same concept applies. What the guys are doing is that they're looking at getting confused between leading indicators and lagging indicators. To me, lagging indicators are where are you in your quota? Because if you're at 92%, that 92% represents what you did not do before. Now, all you're going to do is now you're going to focus your next efforts on how to close that 8%. And that, my friend, is a problem right there. When people are going into a boxing ring and they have to win a weight class, and at the weighing scale, suddenly they find out they're like half a pound more. They run to the bathroom to squeeze out the last few drops. They just jump around. They try to vomit to get some food out. And that's what salespeople end up doing. You suddenly find yourself at crunch time being told that you're 8% off and life depends on that 8%. What are you going to do? You're going to try to go get those few extra unnecessarily straining because you want to get that behavior, for a fact, is all the wrong stuff, right? The behavior that you're looking for is the behavior of champions. And that is the point I'm trying to make over here. But one
Yeah.
thing, Jay, you're going to love about me is that I have metaphors for everything.
It's all good. The analogy actually hits home for me because I've had to train and cut weight. I've had to do. I've went through all of that actually in the past in my hobbies.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, what's a recent team engagement that you're proud of? What actually changed in win rate, cycle time, or just average deal size? Like, what's a big win that you can kind of show off a little bit?
Here's the reality. The search for a big win makes people think that only big wins count. And what is really interesting is that when you ask people who are getting divorced, why are you getting divorced? It's actually not one or two things. It's a series of things. These are what I call the small cuts, the small cuts, the small cuts. They are irritating, but they kill you over time. Reverse this now. Small wins add up to something spectacular. So here we are chasing and we are celebrating and waiting for that big win. We have 6 deals, and the biggest deal is the one that we need to win. And if we win that, that's a big achievement. The reality is that if you win the other 5, there's still so much you can do in terms of mindset. Now, your question though is loaded because your question is that what has been that one success? So let me answer to you as follows. Success needs to be measured. Success can be, I won the biggest deal. Or success could be, we lost the biggest deal, but we learned so much. We changed our processes. We changed our mindset that I am actually telling you, Deepak, I'm going to bed with the power to come back energized the next day morning. When I hear that, I know I've been successful. Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to allow people to measure my coaching with winning the next big deal or the second big deal, then I've made a big mistake. Because remember, this is one of those situations where mathematics is against you in sales, right? When people tell me I have a win rate of 33%, what they're actually saying is that I have a lose rate of 67%, which means that 2 out of 3 deals I will lose. So if I'm going in as a coach and if I build my metrics based on that big ticket win, then I'm already battling against probability, right? So my approach typically is how are you feeling? How motivated are you? And when you put your head on that pillow at night, are you feeling different? Are you looking forward to waking up? Or are you feeling there's no difference? If you're feeling really motivated and chuffed up and pumped up, then Jay, I would put it to this way. And if you get a loss, you're going to tell me your coaching is working, Deepak. For me, that's a big win. The win is a mindset. And of course, once you've been doing it for some time, at the end of the day, I can't go and tell a sales leader that Deepak has improved the mindset of the people. And he says, thanks, buddy, but I can't afford you anymore because I'm not winning any deals thanks to your effort. The people sleep better, but the business is in the doldrums. And I do recognize that. Therefore, I understand the question. All I'm saying is that you measure short term success by behavioral boosts, you measure long term success by the traditional metrics of numbers. But when you start conflating traditional metrics by saying that since Deepak has been coaching someone for 2 weeks, therefore there's no magic charm, right? Hence why I'm extremely cautious. Now, biggest jump for me, which was really cool, was, and to answer your question, working with a company which is into defense, our the single biggest client is the federal government, right? They work under immense pressure, immense stress, plus they also work with an organization that is going to make you jump through the hoops for every deal. In any other place, to get a couple of $1 million, you might do maybe, let's say, 50 pages of work and maybe 25 hours of hygiene. With these guys, you're most likely doing 250 pages of hygiene and most likely 1,000 pages to be submitted, right? It
Wow.
requires a different mindset. It requires a different culture. And their goal was to how to take the organization from 5 million per annum to 10 million and then 20. And I said, cool. So we broke it down. The first breakdown was that they have 3 salespeople. And of the 3 salespeople, believe it or not, they actually have a funny scenario. One is a top performer, he's on automatic pilot. One is struggling. So they asked me, what do you think we should do? I said, here's what I recommend. Give me the bottom guy, give me the middle guy, and you enjoy the top guy. Because in any case, when I met the top guy, I was proven right. The guy didn't need anyone's help and he's on autopilot. Smart dude, figures things out very fast. And here's where sales managers actually go and put a lot of effort in the wrong person. They see that let's get his deal over the line. And the reality is that if they'd moved out of the way, that deal would have got over the line anyway. So in this case, the win was as follows. The bottom person was notorious for not listening to people and taking guidance. But when you build the right coaching plan, he realized he actually took my help to build out personalized playbooks that he wanted to. His point was as follows. I actually want to grow in this role. I actually want the company to give me 2 more people to run. I want this playbook so that I can hand it to people as a legacy of how to be a great person. And here's someone who is a low performer suddenly talking about giving his greatness away. That to me is a massive mind shift. Someone that did not believe in themselves was being hammered because he was not performing is now suddenly talking about his method being the best because that's a mindset shift, right? He's now suddenly talking about that he would love to be a people manager and grow people below him. To me, that's a mind shift. Now, the question that the VP would ask me is, awesome, good for him. Where's my business, buddy? And that's what happens next. The business framework we build out is that I ask these guys, all 3 of them, the 3 sales reps, what's the single biggest thing that's holding you back? And their answer was, you know what? We need a more efficient RFP process. Every RFP is like a pain in the backside. We have to restart every time, even though we worked on 5 different RFPs, we then worked on a very simple, let's get a couple of chat GPTs, custom GPTs built for you that simply analyze the past and tell you how you should structure. Let's go and create some simplistic templates that you can snap, put into place. And when you've snapped them in place, go to chat GPT and say, hey, here's my template. Could you take that, populate here as a starting point? Then we looked at a few case studies and we said, how can we sprinkle those beautifully into your text? And the revelation was that that actually allowed them to improve the capacity. So Jay, when you measure throughput, and I'm an industry engineer, right? And throughput is what sets a company free. If you have a bus and as your sole source of income, and if that bus only runs 10 hours a day, then you're only going to make 10 hours worth of money. Utilization is now bupkas because you got 14 hours of wasted time. They're doing nothing. So in any RFP process, if a process can efficiently generate an RFP smoother, faster, then you have the courage to go take on another RFP. And if that also is assimilated well, then you have the courage to go take on another RFP. The reality is that, and sales, we are cursed with this, right, Jay? Monday morning, if there are 5 bids due, you don't negotiate with the customer. You just don't sleep. You get the 5 bids to that customer. If I can give you a process that actually makes life easier for you to get those 5 out to the customer and live up to your reputation, then that's a successful process. Now comes the measurement metrics. I was just advised that they're hitting $16 million by the end of this year. To me, that's a 60% return on investment. Why? Because they manage the throughput more efficiently. And remember, at the end of the day, you may not like it, Jay, and we may not like it, but get your efficiency, get your standards high, and then make sure that you're banging out as much material with least coefficient of drag. The more you generate, more the chance of winning the deal is still 33%. But because you got that extra 1 or 2 RFPs out, and because you're now looking at quality, you can now start moving that needle a bit. And that's how you get an organization to scale beyond $10 million. Because I can tell you, my experience tells me 10 million is where you need to revamp your entire thought process. What got you to 10 million will not get you to 20 million. And that's where the system over seat of the pants, putting out fires, that's when you're going to struggle. And because you need to systematize, if that's the right word. Back to you.
I appreciate the context. Yeah, it's very clear as well. It's yes, the mindset shift is an important role for any rep, for them to just have the conviction to be able to present, to sell, to get to transfer that conviction, because that's what sales is, right? It's a transfer of conviction. You are sure about your product being able to help them, but the prospect needs to also be sure that your product service can help them. Yeah, my next question was going to be about your upcoming book. So tell us a little bit about the book, who it's for, and what's the core idea behind it.
Jay, I am so excited about this. The core idea is pretty simple. I want you to just step back a bit here with me. Just there you are, shiny, bright high school. I'm older, so I can't remember that far back, but you can hopefully remember, right? And every conversation is supportive people, a school that's supportive, a structured process that says, this is the date you're going to put in applications. This is when you're going to meet your counselor. This is the universities. Then you're going to go online and you're going to get a nice dashboard where you're going to apply for everything, right? And you get to college. You get to college, you pay a truckload of money, but you get a teaching assistant in your classes. You get a professor, you get structure. You get a library, you get structure. Then you realize I need to make a resume. Guess what? The university says, no problem. Here's some templates. Here's some awesome people. Go on YouTube, you self-learn. But there's so much structure still that's underlying all that. That scaffolding of success. 10 years, you're now getting your first job, Jay. 21 years old and you have an offer. Could be McKinsey, could even be McDonald's. I don't care. You got a job. And that excitement of your first job is so cool, right? Because you believe I'm top of the hill. I have done it. Mom, dad, look at me. I got my first job. And now comes the fun part. You suddenly wake up one morning and realize that this is 10 years journey. Buddy, you got 30, 40 years of corporate servitude left. Now what? And now you realize that entire scaffolding that was designed to accelerate you to greatness is now missing. You are expected to build your own career. You're expected to be lucky enough to find that manager that's going to hold your hand and take you through this maze. You think that it's a democracy. Every company has got 20 employees, only one or two are going to get promoted. The other 18, no fault of theirs, because that's just how the cookie crumbles. If we could promote everyone, we would do it, right? But that's not how the system works. Same thing in an organization. You cannot have a democratic process that everyone's from. So now this is where the disillusionment comes in. People suddenly realize that everything they trained for is now disappearing. Where is my coach? Where is my mentor? Where is that thought process? So what companies do is they then give you wellness programs. They tell you, hey, are you struggling with mental health? Here's a 1-800 go mental. And you call them and you do get some relief. But the reality is that that relief is just patchy. You step back and you suddenly realize, I actually don't know how to manage my boss. I actually don't understand why he talks to me like this. His tone, his message, I don't know how to differentiate. I want to go apply for that job. I think the grass is greener on the other side. Something is pulling you. Why is it pulling you? Do you understand that? This book is that answer. It says there is a gap in the world today. We are all so focused on SAT testing and so on and so on that we actually realize and forget the next 30 years of our life after. How do you retain that job? How do you master that job? And how do you work yourself for the next job? Now, there are naturally 10 or 20 people, 20% of the people out there who are going to be successful, irrespective of my advice or my book, because they just know what to do. Some of them may be narcissists, but here's the reality. Those ambitious people are also hiding an evil truth, which is they're burning out gently inside, but they are willing to do that because they believe it's the price of success, because that's what we've been taught, right? But you got to be a startup, you got to struggle, you got to eat cat food and pet food to survive, because guess what? That's a ritual. Everyone does it. So we put ourselves through immense hardship. And if you look at my finger in the book behind it, what makes us human, fails us too, is a book I wrote because of my own burnout, mental health challenges in the jobs that I were doing. I worked for 4 managers in a row, and all 4 told me that I have a shit style of functioning. Think about it. 4. Now I step back and says, I never ever complain about me like that. What they were actually saying was that we need you to be obedient and we need you to stop questioning us and just take what I'm saying directly. I changed myself for those 4 managers. The most money I made in my life was under those guys. Why? Because I adapted and changed. Now, let me ask you a question, Jay. How many people do you know would be able to suffer 4 really managers telling you that they don't like your style and need you to change. I did that. Do you know why? Because my ambition was fueling it. But was it good for my mental health? So what I'm offering to people is a book that simply says, I've been there, done that. Think of it as generational advice. I'm asking you, do the hustle. Don't fall into the hustle trap. Do the ambition, but define success on your own terms. It's a balance of well-being. And it's also got, there's a whole chapter on AI in it. Someone asked me, AI, what are you telling them? Prompts? I said, no, I'm telling them how to put your device away, how to make sure that you're not going into the fear of missing out. Therefore, you go in. I'm working right now with people that tell me, Jay, in the pre-AI days, you could write an email to a customer in 5 minutes. Do you know how long people are spending writing emails right now? It's either 5 seconds or it's 50 minutes, because they start with AI and then they have to undo all that work because they want to say something else. So you have got this unique dichotomy where some people have mastered AI, but some people are struggling with AI because they are now fearing AI that is going to take my job, because they're looking at AI as not a means to the end, it's the end. AI is something that I need to adopt. No, you need to actually build AI into your thought process, into how you work, in the same way that a carpenter uses a saw as an instrument to convert what's in his mind and get his creative spirit out. He uses it as a tool. End of story. All I'm saying is that the ICP for this is someone that's 21 to 30 years old, started their career. And all I'm saying to them is, instead of learning by failing, learn in advance from other people's messages to you. So the way I wrote that book also, Jay, is pretty simple. I actually start off by storytelling. It's one of those themes that work very well with me. I actually talk about, and the way I weave this is that it's a project that's kicking off. There's a group of people there. You have Neil, you have Georgia, you have, Ria and a couple other people in this, right? And of course, I made sure that I brought in all different races and geographical issues as well. Project kicks off, and now we start building. Each time there is a confusion, the boss barges in and says, guys, I have a management review tomorrow. Drop everything you're doing, only focus on that. And the team is like, but boss, we are going live tomorrow. He's like, yeah, that also needs to happen. But I have. So we're showing bad managers and the pressure they create in a system. Then you have a whole chapter on self-doubt. You have a whole chapter on imposter syndrome. My goal is to bring a little bit of science, but then frameworks. So the word rise up, which was the title of the book, Rise Up, Your Career Reclaim. The word rise up actually is an acronym that stands for something. And Jay, I'm giving people a framework where Rise Up allows you to figure out how to build that foundational awareness of what you need to do. And then we use a framework called Coach, 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 to coach yourself on how to then, what's the word I'm looking for, productize, or you convert this framework into problem solving. The whole range, the story also develops. You're literally following a bunch of people who are going through these agonizing mechanics. And when I wrote it, and that's one of the reasons why my co-author is my youngest son, I brought him on board and I asked him, hold my feet to the fire and tell me that I never miss out to write to a person that's 21 years old. So he made me rewrite the entire book 3 times to get the tone, conversation right. His vision was very simple. I think you will appreciate this, and I promise to shut up, was I want the guy reading this book to feel he's sitting next to someone that's older, but someone who empathizes, someone sitting in a warm, sunny cafe, cup of coffee in front of us and just talking in gentle tone, conversational tone. Hey, buddy, that type of vibe. And that was pretty difficult for me because I'd never written in that way before. And this time I did it. And luckily, I have a background writing fiction as well. So the storytelling came naturally. And as we were going through this, I also brought in a lot of people to keep reading it constantly. I got so much feedback that at one point I told my wife, biggest mistake of my life writing this book. The book was supposed to be about 200 pages, quick and dirty, pick it up, snap through it and change your life. And then I realized that is frivolous. That's like, reading a headline that says, would you want to 3x your income? Come join this course. $6,000 and then pumped up muscle guy on stage selling you sailing techniques. And after $12,000, you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what happened here, but I didn't get my money's worth. And that's what I wanted to avoid. So that's why the book ended up 517 pages, 33 chapters. And the chapters are designed in such a way that you can actually skip them, go to things that matter to you. So if you feel that you are not talking in meetings and are lacking confidence, let's go to that chapter. Let's talk about that, discuss it. There are frameworks there. A little bit of science, more frameworks. And it's what I call self-reflective questions, Jay. Sit back and ask yourself, why do I want to leave this organization? Is it because of how I feel or because of the fact that I've actually done a stupendous job and now I want to do something different? So I give people ways to rationalize and think about it. Because sometimes when you think about the grass being greener on the other side, yeah, it's nothing more than just grass being different on the other side. There's no more greener, no. There's no holy grail. You're going to simply move from one pile of something to another pile of something. You need to understand why you're making those moves or changes. So think bigger, think broadly. Again, metaphors. Back to you, sir.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Yes, that's absolutely. Sounds like a very interesting book. Where can people find the book? Find maybe some of your other books.
So the best way to start is first find me. Deepak lives on LinkedIn. Jay, I am like one of those squatters, he sees an empty house and says, you know what, I'm going to live in it. That's me. I'm living in a house called LinkedIn. So I'm spending 3-4 days, hours a day there. Highly recommend that people just, kind of follow me, follow my post. You'll get a lot of material. You won't, someone actually told me, knowing you, Deepak, everything in that book is going to really get out soon. In the next 1 year, you're going to release tidbits and tidbits. I might not. I don't know, right, Jay? But to find me, start there, Deepak Bhootra. There's only one guy who could manage that full name there because I was old enough to get it in early. Now there are another 6 Deepak Bhootra. Then they're like Deepak Bhootra 666, Deepak Bhootra 055. That's not me. I'm the Deepak Bhootra. Then books, to be honest, I always publish on Amazon. Jay, I'm not at the point where I can say that I have my own Simon and Schuster or Penguin books or something behind my back. We'll get there one day. At this point, I just self-publish. I do it. This book is the biggest effort I put into in my life at this time because when we started the book, I did not realize how big I was going to make it. So I'm Amazon. Just go type my name. You'll find it there. Rise Up, your career reclaimed, you'll find it. But typically right now my name is enough in Amazon to pick up. You'll also find all other titles that I have and you can see them in the back then in any case. I hope that answers the question in terms of where
Yes.
find me and you'll find the book is all I'm saying.
Right. And what type of client would get the biggest results, or maybe which of the clients that you enjoy working with the most, just so someone listening can think, hey, that's me. Let me reach out.
So two things. If you want to reach out to work with me one-on-one, right, then I would say that my ICP is someone that's, a sales IC who's thinking of moving into a management position and wants to understand, is that journey for me or not? And if I do the journey, how big a change would that be, Deepak? Now, I'm sure you're thinking, wait a minute, that's such a slim category of people he's talking about. It's actually there because that's one of the biggest problems that I like to solve. There's this rumor out there that great salespeople are very bad sales managers. You've heard that, right? That if you want to see a salesperson get destroyed, make them a sales manager. And that is happening because you never actually put the right lens or the right conversation in the first place. What did you see that made you think that he would be a great people manager? Because he made his number? Then I argue people don't know the definition of people manager. Because now you're not working towards your perfection, you're working to other people's perfection. And that requires a servant spirit. That requires something else. That's a dynamic that's very different. So therefore, when you tell me that I'm going to take my best performing sales rep and put him into a manager's position, and then when he fails, you claim that this rule is the truth. So watch out for that. My ICP is typically coaching people that are looking to burst through whatever restraints they have. At the same time, I work with 21 years old, 22 years old. The book, though, Jay, I would argue as follows. If you're in sales, starting a career at 21, and you want to build the right baseline, but you want to look at things outside of technique, more like how to navigate an organization is politics and stuff, then Rise Up is for you in that context. But when I wrote Rise Up based on my experience as an ICF coach, Jay. My goal was not to write for salespeople because I would write this book very differently with salespeople. I would make it a bit more internal in terms of how to recover from negativity, customers saying no. In real life, a lot of people don't actually understand the pain that a salesperson goes through. This book specifically, I would say, is for people who are ambitious, want a long career longevity exercise to happen for them. This book will help you with that. Working with me one-on-one, typically, I would say sales VPs who want their team to elevate their performance work with me. Sales VPs who have access to budgets that they can use to train people. I am a Sandler certified coach and trainer. I work with them in that way. Again, very long answer, but I hope you got what you're looking for, Jay.
No, no, thank you. The more context, the better. It's rather you over communicate than under communicate.
And that's not what my wife would call it. She would just say, just over the. I don't know about the communication.
Well, that's your wife, so that's something different.
Yeah,
All right.
correct. Let's not go there. We'll get into trouble. You're right.
All right. Well, Deepak, I want to thank you so much for sharing some your wisdom with us. I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me. If you are listening to this episode and if you want to reach out to Deepak, maybe improve your salesmanship, improve your team's processes and their, of course, in the long term, the results, definitely you know how to find Deepak. He's on LinkedIn. If you want more stories like this, if you want to tune in, make sure you subscribe. There we have a lot of people coming on that are going to share some really valuable knowledge bombs. My name is Jay. Thanks so much. Talk again soon.